Beautiful. Welcome to another episode of Euphoric the Podcast, one of the only podcasts that bring together alcohol-free living and entrepreneurship, which I'm just so excited about because it was only through ditching alcohol myself that I really woke up to the entrepreneurial fire and potential I had inside of me. Now, I wasn't someone who was rock bottom or drinking every day. In fact, I drank mostly around the weekend, and yet it was something that I used as a reward to get through my work weeks. Like, I couldn't wait for happy hours to go out to be able to celebrate that another week is done and we get to, get into the weekend. I didn't realize how unfulfilled I was with my day to day and that I was not living into my deeper purpose of making an impact on this planet. I also didn't have the career freedom. I wasn't getting paid very much and I wasn't able to travel the world the way I wanted to. I had to ask for time off and all those kind of things that come with it. And so when I gave alcohol the boot, all of a sudden I had this huge awakening of like, why couldn't you be an entrepreneur? Why couldn't you dictate your own hours, your own schedule, what you're working on, what level of impact you want to make in the world? And since I combined those two passions, wow, my life has never been the same. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing these topics with you. And so I love to help people get into entrepreneurship. I love to help people go alcohol-free, obviously. I love to help business owners grow their businesses as well, especially in the alcohol-free and or wellness and personal development spaces, because I think it's so important, the work that we do here. And obviously, if you can help someone change their relationship with alcohol, you will forever be immortalized in their mind as someone who made such a big difference in their life. You will be making ripple effects. Like, you can't even imagine how much you're affecting their life, their family's life, their community, their longevity, their lifespan, like what they do as a purpose in this world. It is really a big deal and it is really a special honor to hold. And so I often get this question from people, do I have to be certified to coach? And I actually did a podcast episode about this before. It's episode 201. But I wanted to bring a fresh perspective and I wanted to kind of see what's going on in 2025 so we can update that a little bit and talk about this topic from this new nuanced angle and stuff like that. And so the thing is that, oftentimes we go through our own personal transformation and we are so excited about it. So maybe you've gone through a personal transformation where you ditched alcohol. Maybe you went through a personal transformation where you were super masculine and all about success and milestones. And all of a sudden you really lean back into embracing your femininity and your soul and stuff like that. So maybe you've been on a spiritual journey. Maybe you went on a weight loss or a healing journey. Maybe you have healed, something like skin flare-ups. We have gone through so many different things as women that when we often go through them and we come out on the other side, we're like, oh my God, I need to share this with other people. This is such a big gift. I struggled so much. I have to let other people know about this. And I feel both that way with the alcohol-free living and entrepreneurship because I've made so many mistakes in business. I want to teach people how to avoid all that. I want to teach you how to be successful from the get-go. And I want to share the gift of alcohol-free lifestyle, obviously, too. And so what often happens is as you finish, going through a challenge and or you're on the other side, that you have the core information, the core philosophy, the core method that really, really could help someone else, right? And think about it. This could be anything. This could be how to sleep train a baby. This could be how to really align with your circadian rhythm. This could be so many different areas, right? But oftentimes we take on the position and the role of coach or online educator in order to share these things back with other people. And so do you have to be certified to do that? So here's the thing about the coaching industry is that it is not a medical industry. So compared to a doctor or a nurse or, even a chiropractor or something like that, there is no board out there that doles out licenses and that exam that you have to pass in order to do that. So coaching is unregulated in that respect. So technically, legally, you're not going to get in trouble if you start coaching or teaching people online if you're not certified, right? And sometimes getting started is better than sitting back and wishing and hoping that you could actually go do something. So I always love to reward action and effort. So often what happens is people put up together their Instagrams, they put together maybe a website, and they're starting to teach from their level of their transformation, which is really cool because do not downplay it. If you have changed your life in any way, you know things other people don't know. There is someone out there on this planet right now that wishes that they were you. And you probably know way more about this topic and subject than that other person. even if you don't think of yourself as an expert, even if you still think you're a beginner in the topic, you still know way more than someone who knows nothing. You know 10% more. And sometimes it's actually easier to learn from someone who's just a little bit ahead of you versus someone who's like 20 years ahead of you, because it's actually more relatable and you're actually going to be able to grasp the knowledge. And so that's really a beautiful thing to do, is starting to share back what you've learned and what makes the difference for you, and maybe cultivate some kind of signature method or signature vehicle to make that change in other people. Now, you could do all of that technically while not being certified, right? You could really just hone in on what your journey looked like, how you personally made those changes, and then help someone make those other changes. Now, that could be great for like a course or a group program, but when it comes to one-on-one coaching, what happens if that person has a totally different life situation than you? What happens if you made the change when you were single and this other person is married and their partner is a huge influence on them? All of a sudden now you are dealt with all these different situations that you never had to experience, right? So your transformation alone isn't enough because you now don't know how to deal with someone who has a different situation than you. And that's the thing, is that since coaching isn't regulated, you don't have to technically be certified, but when you truly want to be the best coach you can be, when you really want to have an online education empire, when you want to be able to help as many people as possible, it pays to get these skills. It pays to understand how to affect any change on the subconscious level, not just the transformation that you went through in your own journey, but any transformation. So what happens if you're one-on-one coaching someone and you help them change their relationship with alcohol because you learn that on your own and you have all those tools and stuff like that? What happens if they want to change careers, or they want to really discover their purpose, or they want to maybe have a relationship change or a spiritual journey, and now you don't really know what to do or where to go next because you don't have as much expertise in that area? Now, getting certified doesn't mean you're going to know everything about every single topic in the world, but what it does is it teaches you a very specific method on how to help people overcome their blocks, overcome their subconscious programs that are not serving them, their fears mostly, their doubts mostly, anything that's standing in their way of limiting patterns, limiting behaviors, really be able to see through that and make breakthroughs so those things start to crumble away and really get to the art of what you want to program into their subconscious. So this is all the positive change they want to see. This is the identities that they want to be. This is the behaviors they want to have, the habits they want to have. This is all around the type of person they want to be, how they want to show up, what they believe, all that kind of stuff. And that is so the art of coaching basically is helping someone program out the trash and program in the good stuff, right? And I think that until you understand the subconscious mind on a really, really deep level and how to make that change deep down there, sometimes change isn't very lasting because we're just doing it consciously and we're not really embodied in the work. And so knowing how to change a subconscious mind, thinking, programming, I think is one of the most essential skills a coach can have. And so if you're really interested in helping people and being the best coach you can be and really having a holistic breadth of what you can help people through, then getting certified I think would be really, really smart. Now, here's the thing. Not all certification programs even broach the mind. This is honestly something that's appalling to me, but there's a lot of programs out there. They're really born out of that like life coaching method in school of just literally sitting there and asking people questions and listening. Now, these are really good skills to have if you're going to be a coach or an online educator. Obviously, you want to know how to ask good questions and how to listen, but to think that that's all coaching is and to think that that's all we do would be such an understatement. And, a lot of times what happens is people start with this $500, $800, $20 even certification that really doesn't teach them very much. It teaches them super common sense things that they already knew, and they don't have any better skills when they graduate. But they do have the little piece of paper, right? And that makes you feel more confident in the moment. And so I really would ask yourself, if you're looking for a certification, what is my goal here? Is my goal here just to say I have the stamp of piece of paper, but I didn't really learn anything new? Or is my goal to really become one of the best coaches I can be and really understand the subconscious mind and how to make a lasting change in the subconscious mind? Because then you can do that in relationships. Then you can do that with alcohol. Then you can do that with money. Then you can do that with, business. Then you can do that with any kind of niche you want to and be really just a very well-grounded coach. Now, the subconscious is something that has so many different modalities and elements to it. So there's not just one modality that helps you change the subconscious mind. There's very many different ones, different exercises and techniques, and different modalities that do that. So for example, somatics is really popular these days. Somatics is the process of using the body to release things and to embody new identities. And oftentimes we also, think of the subconscious mind as something that's only in our brain. Our subconscious is also our body. If you think of the subconscious as all the things that you're not aware of, like your heart beating and your body digesting and all the neurons sending things here and there, it's definitely subconscious, right? So how you play into your body, what you store in your body, what you release through your body, what you can embody in your body is also a way and a modality that's technically part of the subconscious arts. It's part of understanding that level of change that you can make. There's so many, right? There's EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, tapping as it's called, right? Where you're literally tapping into these acupressure points to release a lot of the pain, the sadness, the frustration, the anger, the anxiety, and then program in all the good things that you want to feel and the feeling of peace and abundance that you want to have. There are certain NLP techniques, so neuro-linguistic programming is what NLP stands for. And basically it's a way that we encode information from the outside world through senses, our 5 senses, and through language. And oftentimes the way we encode things then limits us to what we want to do but don't do, or things that we don't want to do but we continue doing. It's all this like scramble in the encoding. So if you can learn how successful people encode different information and different ways of being, you can literally model that and encode the brain for success. So there's some really cool NLP techniques that go really deep into the subconscious, asking questions that like only the subconscious mind would have answers to in order to make that change. Hypnosis is also a very deep subconscious technique that speaks directly to the subconscious mind, because you're basically getting into a theta brain state where you are in that state where you're almost like about to fall asleep or waking up. Maybe not necessarily in the hypnosis, but that's another time that we get into that theta brain state. Children live in theta brain state, theta and alpha mostly. So like when they're 0 to 7, that's why they're like sponges. That's why they believe in Santa Claus and Easter Bunny and all that kind of stuff. And so when you can get your client into a theta brain state, their subconscious is really open and receptive to anything that's going to get programmed in. So you want to program in their new identity, the new success, the new habits, the new affirmations, the new mantras and stuff like that. And hypnosis is not some like woo-woo thing. It is like a Stanford approved, like so much research and studies are going into it today. There's so much that going into even fertility hypnosis, money hypnosis that are really changing like molecular level of our bodies and the way that we like react and interact with this world, which is really, really cool. We can also go really deep into the subconscious and changing it through the power of really understanding what our deepest desires are. And this is really where success coaching comes through. So like understanding not what society wants you to want, not what your parents have always wanted you to want, not what you think will make you look like a good girl or a successful person, but really getting to the core of the deepest desires of your heart can also be a subconscious unraveling. And so we also teach that in our success coaching and how to get to that deepest level of what someone finds as fulfillment on this planet, what someone finds as true purpose and true meaning on this planet. And then using the subconscious arts is also really, really effective to help someone change their relationship with alcohol, because guess what? All of our desires to drink are embedded into the subconscious. It's actually not a conscious process. It is very much more so. And that's why people do these breaks 20 days without alcohol, but then they go back to drinking because they only was changing the conscious thinking, not the subconscious thinking. So your desire to drink might be married to this image of glamour that you've always had in your subconscious mind based on an advertisement you saw when you're 4 years old, right? Based when you watch like Breakfast at Tiffany's or something like that, like something ridiculous. But basically our subconscious is also programmed to understand that alcohol meets all of these different needs. And so until we're able to change those beliefs at the subconscious level and meet those needs in new ways, alcohol will still be alluring. There's so many people that I've met throughout my career who don't drink, but still pine for alcohol. Like that is not where you want to be, right? You want to change that subconscious mind to not desire it anymore. And that's also a really effective tool when you're looking at just mindset in general. How does someone approach like opportunity? Do they think that like, oh my God, the world's my oyster, there's so much in store for me, money's like around the corner, like all this like sense of positivity? Or do they come from it from a really like victim mindset of like, this never works out for me, I don't think I'm capable of success, like I can't invest in myself, I can't afford it, like all this I can't language. And that seems to be sometimes like a personality thing, but it's not. Because our personalities aren't static. Our personalities are technically programmed by the subconscious. So it's not just who someone is. I had this conversation with a friend who's like, well, that's just how I am. And it's like, no, that's what like you've been programmed to be. That's what society programmed you. That's what you were programmed in your childhood. That has no core reflection on who you're meant to be on this planet. And so getting deep into how to change the subconscious, even in your mindset and how you view the world and what you think is possible for you, and really becoming the most empowered version of you where you truly believe anything is possible for you, is a beautiful change in the subconscious mind, right? Not just like writing down an affirmation once and knowing that it's going to come true. And so I think that that's really the key thing when it comes to making massive transformations for your clients. You want to be sure that you can access those levels of the subconscious to be able to actually make those changes instead of just talking over it or asking random questions or listening. Obviously, those are really good skills to have as a coach, but I think it goes deeper. And I think the coaches who really do well and who really grow empires are the ones who understand these deeper layers of change. And so that's something that only a certification will teach. Unless you're going to get a PhD in like the human potential movement or neuroscience or something like that, it is really only a certification. And honestly, sadly, it's not most certifications. Most certifications do not touch on the subconscious arts and the science of changing the subconscious mind. They really just dabble into like, well, here's how you ask questions for your clients, and then you listen, and then you ask another question. And it's like, yeah, but for what reason? For what point, right? Like, where are we actually making the change? I know of only a few really good certifications that really go into the art of the subconscious. I obviously have designed mine to be so well depthly thought out on how to make changes there. And we obviously go at it from the angle of helping someone change their relationship with alcohol, but also that deep purpose, also that deep fulfillment, also that deep level of success and happiness. And that can really translate into so many different niches. You could use those tools in a wellness related niche, in a burnout niche, in a career niche, in a business niche. It doesn't really matter because it really translates to all of those different areas. And so I think when you ask the question, do I have to be certified to coach? It really depends. Like, do you want to be the best coach you can be, or do you want to just kind of like play pretend coaching, right? And so to get started, there's no reason why you can't get started with like a social media, maybe a website, starting to build an audience, sharing, your transformation online is beautiful. But just remember that there's going to get a point where your transformation isn't enough. We're really understanding how to affect more lives, change more lives with tools that go beyond maybe what you've gone through on your own is going to be really, really effective to be literally one of the most respected, sought out coaches that you can be. I also just think like, if we really are serious about this, if we really want to have an online education company, if you really want to build an empire, why not become the best you can be at it? Why not get the education you need that it's going to make it so much easier and so much more fulfilling to grow than being an amateur? Because honestly, people kind of make fun of like, oh, you're just like a life coach. I mean, I don't like that word life coach, right? That's why we don't use it in the certification. But it's like, no, there's something so much more to it to help people change their lives than just asking questions and being a life coach, right? And so again, if you're like really serious and wanted to like really have a successful practice, like it just makes all the sense in the world to me. But do you have to do it? Is it something that is going to be regulated? Is someone going to check up on you? No, but it definitely can help also with your competence. So here's another thing that happens. People put up the sign like, oh, now I'm life coaching, but they don't actually take action to get clients and to help a lot of people because they never really believe in this new identity. And so it doesn't really like actually make it real for them, right? And so I think until you really are competent and knowing what you're doing as well and getting the practice and getting the iterative and really getting out of your comfort zone to become confident in the coaching skills that you've learned, that is also something that is going to feel very missing and lacking in the confidence level of how you're able to get clients. So what you do first definitely depends on you. You don't have to get certified first. You can start your Instagram first and whatnot. But I do think that in a smart, professional, like we're not being amateurs here, it does make sense. And not just even maybe one certification. Like you don't have to be a serial certification getter, but I have a lot, right? I've gone through multiple schools, multiple programs. I'm always learning. I'm always interested in how to affect change in the human consciousness, in our psychology. I'm learning it for myself. I'm learning it for my clients. I'm learning it so that I can be the best coach that I could be. This is a huge passion of mine, obviously. And then when it comes to, basically the business side of it, that's where I think that, a lot of business coaches might be like, oh, you don't need another certification. You actually need business training. And so that's something to look out too, is our certifications that you're looking at, do they have any business training? Is it just some random thing you unlock when you're done that you're never going to go through? Or is it actually step by step that we're spending just as much time in this program helping you grow a business? And again, I think that's what makes this 5X certification program pretty unique, is that it's one of the only programs that I know about that has just as much time, 5 months on the certifications, 5 months on the business training, so that you actually know what the hell you're doing. You know how to get clients, you know how to market, you know how to make real money, you know how to host retreats, you know how to do the things that really make you stand out in this industry. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, are we playing pretend or are we in it for real, right? And I think that can really be the difference maker in what you decide to do. Now, when it comes to the regulation of this, like I said, this isn't like a licensed industry the way like a medical industry is. So there's no big bad guy that's coming here. However, you want to be in good standing. You definitely want to understand ethics. You want to know the best coaching standards. The ICF is one of those organizations that pulls together the best standards and recognizes the best programs in order to do that. They have a pretty high vetting process. They really look at accreditation and the efficacy of learning. I used to work at a university, so this is something we had to do for the university as well. And I'm just so proud and honored that we have been approved by the ICF. We did have to go through that vetting process and have all of our curriculum reviewed and such. And also we have 2 other accreditations, which is really amazing, with the CPD and the IAOTH. And so that is just going to show that, is the certification program you're going through actually something that has these kinds of standards, that is recognized? These programs aren't necessarily like Ivy League schools. Like, you can't really do apples to oranges like that. There's all these different programs out there. You could find a $20 program on Udemy, honestly. I do not recommend you do that. But when you're really getting quality, it's definitely going to have that higher ticket price. It's going to have the coaching practice baked into you. It's going to have the accreditations. It's going to have the business training. And like ours, we actually have a retreat included. So that's what's really special. So I hope I gave you some food for thought. I also, in the last episode that I did on this topic, talked a little bit about the difference between therapy and coaching, which I think is really key too. Therapy and coaching are completely different industries. And so sometimes coaching is again made to seem like this light version or something like that, or more fluffy or something. They're 2 different industries that have different academics behind them. They have different research behind them. They have different schools behind them. There are coaching schools in universities. There are, therapy schools in universities. They're 2 different fields. One comes from the mental health psychological background of really treating different psychological diseases. The other comes from the business world and helping people fulfill their greatest potential and fulfill and meet their goals. One is much more future focused. The other is much more past focused, right? And so I really wouldn't compare them like that. But if you've ever wanted to be a therapist, or you ever wanted to help people in that way, I do think coaching is the most incredible best of both worlds, because you are able to have so much more flexibility. There isn't that bureaucracy. Most therapists can only work in their state. They can't actually see people outside of their state and stuff like that. But online stuff gets a little tricky and things like that. And so I do think that coaching gives you that ability to really make that profound difference with people, but then a lot more flexibility and much less regulations to have to, go by. But honestly, it's kind of hard to compare them because they serve 2 different purposes, and I don't think they should be conflated. And I do think that, a lot of times what's so effective about having a coach is that they usually don't teach from theory. They've walked those shoes too. Right? Usually a coach is passionate in teaching you about what they're teaching you and helping you through that because they've gone through it themselves, which is a really sacred role and a special place to play. And so there's something in therapy called don't break the 3rd wall, whereas don't talk about yourself ever. And in coaching, obviously you don't want to take up a whole coaching session talking about yourself, but it actually is really relevant to, relate to someone and to say, I've been through that, and like, let me share a little anecdote, or maybe you share that through your content or your podcast or your emails and stuff like that. So I think it's a lot more approachable too, and can be really fun in that way. If there's a question I didn't cover, just DM me on Instagram at euphoric.af. I think this is a really fascinating field. I'm really curious to see how the coaching industry will grow. Yes, anyone can just put up that they're a coach on Instagram, but there is a huge difference between the type of person who's making real money, real impact, and making a legacy, and they usually know what they're doing by going through proper training. And I guess that's just my 2 cents about it. But I do believe in taking action. I do believe that you should get started wherever you're at, and you can always make steps forward wherever you're at, because there's a lot of business building that you might want to do even before a certification if that's your jam. For example, starting a social media, starting a website, all that kind of stuff. However, there really is no rule to it. You're going to have to lean into what feels right for you, but we know what the pros are doing, so that's what I'm going to keep doing. All right, I hope this was super helpful, and I'll see you in the next episode.